Dear audience, I'm Dr. Hui-Chung, the chairman of Reed Medical Technologies and the CDO of China Biomedical and Technology Applications Association. Welcome to HATV program entitled Zeidman-Software Forensic and Safe on IP. Today, we are very honored to have the software forensics expert, Mr. Zeidman, to share his MS-DOS and CPM comparison. Software forensics is the science of analyzing software source codes to determine whether intellectual property infringement occurred. Mr. Zeidman has developed the algorithms, technology, and procedures for CodeSuit, which has been widely used in over 100 cases. Mr. Zeidman has been a consultant and a testifying expert on over 250 cases involving billions of dollars of intellectual property. Previously, Mr. Zeidman has shared us many interesting software forensics stories involving in improving your powerful tool, CodeSuit. Mr. Zeidman also solved a long-standing rumors about Microsoft, which related to MS-DOS and CPM. Would you mind telling us about this new rumor and the historical background? What were the legal issues? How did you get access to the MS-DOS and the CPM source codes and perform the comparison? Besides, what was the rumor about Gary Kildall's hidden messages and your conclusions?
Thank you very much for asking me about this very interesting forensic analysis that I... Yes, so when IBM released the PC personal computer back in 1981, it needed an operating system for it. And IBM wasn't known for developing software, only hardware at that time. So it approached a small company called Microsoft in Seattle, Washington, that developed and sold the most popular applications for microcomputers. The company's CEO was a very young Bill Gates, and he told IBM that he didn't have an operating system, but that they should approach a company called Digital Research in Monterey, California, that developed and sold the most popular operating system for microcomputers called CPM. When IBM couldn't reach a deal with DRI, they came back to Microsoft. Bill Gates told them that Microsoft could produce an operating system for them. So Gates quickly acquired the rights to an operating system called QDOS, or Quick and Dirty Operating System, for $75,000 and hired its developer Tim Patterson to modify it into MS-DOS for licensing to IBM. Now, rumors have persisted for years that QDOS was actually a copy of CPM from Digital Research, and thus Bill Gates' fortune was built on stolen intellectual property. Many people know that Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard University to start Microsoft with his friend Paul Allen. At the time, very small computers called microcomputers were mostly used by hobbyists and hackers. Bill and Paul created GW Basic, a programming language interpreter that programmers could use to write programs in high-level programming language called BASIC. This caught on, and Microsoft started creating other apps for the microcomputer. Gary Kildall was a young professor of computer science at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California. He developed the CPM operating system that became a standard for microcomputers. He pioneered the concept of a basic input-output system, also called a BIOS, to control all of the input-output hardware in the system, and was built into the hardware in the form of programmable memories. Gary Kildall was kind of a rebel who, like many other microcomputer hobbyists at the time, didn't trust the big tech companies and wanted to start a revolution where individuals would have more control over computers. So when IBM flew in to negotiate a deal, Gary flew out. He was a pilot, so he took his plane out for a spin. IBM executives met with his wife Dorothy instead, who wouldn't sign the non-disclosure agreement that IBM required. When Kildall returned from flying, he also wouldn't sign the NDA. So the IBM execs left and returned to Seattle to talk again with Bill Gates. Although Gary Kildall was very wealthy when he passed away at a very young age of 52, he had passed up that one opportunity with IBM and lost the chance to be one of the most influential people in the computer industry and one of the wealthiest people in history. Software, like all written works, are protected by copyrights. In the United States, the Software Copyright Act of 1980 formalized the submission requirements for software to get a copyright. If it turned out that MS-DOS had been copied from CP/M, then Gary Kildall and DRI would have had the ability to sue Microsoft for copyright infringement and would be entitled to a share of Microsoft's very large profits. Digital Research went out of business in 1991, and CP/M is no longer used, so the source code can be found on the internet. Similarly, QDOS source code from defunct company Seattle Computer Products is no longer used, and the source code can also be found on the internet. In 2016, the Computer History Museum in Mountain View, California, received the source code for DOS 2.0 from Microsoft and was given permission to make it public. The museum also received the source code for DOS 1.1 from its creator, Tim Patterson, who was contracted by Microsoft to write the original DOS. So I was able to get the source code for all of these operating systems to make a comparison. First, we do some basic things, including searching for copyright notices, companies' names, for example, looking for one company's name in the other company's code, looking for one company's product name in the other company's code, and looking for one company's programmer's name in the other company's code. It's surprising how many times a programmer will copy code and neglect to change these things. Then I would run the code match function of CodeSuit, the tool that I developed, to find matching code elements in the two sets of source code. After that, I would run the source detective function of the CodeSuit tool to eliminate any non-protectable code elements like third-party code or commonly used terms, because copyright doesn't protect such things. I found some things that at first seemed suspicious. I found comments in MS-DOS that referred to CP/M, but the code beneath the comments was for reading floppy disks, and since CP/M came first, it made sense for MS-DOS to explain in the comment how its file system was different than that of CP/M. I also found a number of variable names that were identical in both sets of code. However, at the time, variable names were limited to 6 characters, all capital, so that there weren't too many variations of variable names. When I examined the code that used these variables, I recognized that the code was performing very different functions and the variables were holding different kinds of values. For example, I found the variable name COMERROR in both programs, but in one program it was used to indicate a communication error when reading a file, and in the other program it was used to indicate that the user had typed in a bad command. So these were not indications of copying. Well, according to science fiction writer and technology reporter Jerry Pournelle, there was a secret command in DOS that printed a copyright notice for DRI, and it also printed Gary Kildall's full name on the screen. That if you typed in this secret command, that would show up on the screen. And on a podcast, Pournelle said that Kildall had told him about it and typed it into DOS, whereupon it produced the notice and allegedly proved that DOS source code was copied from CP/M. But the amount of source code that comprises DOS is tiny compared to today's applications. It could all fit on a single floppy disk of 144K, which is nothing. So I searched through every line of DOS source code and found no such command. My conclusion is that MS-DOS code was definitely not copied from CP/M source code. There's no secret command in DOS either that prints out DRI or Gary Kildall's name or any other thing. However, about 10 years ago, I officially offered a $100,000 prize to anyone who could prove that DOS was copied from CP/M or could find the secret message hidden in DOS, and so far no one has claimed the prize.
Thank you, Mr. Zeidman, for your detailed enlightenment. Mr. Zeidman is the president and the founder of Zeidman Consulting, that provides engineering consulting to law firms regarding the intellectual property disputes. He is also the president and the founder of Software Analysis and Forensic Engineering Corporation, aka SAFE, which is the leading provider of software IP analysis tool. He is also the author of the book titled The Software IP Detective's Handbook, Measurement, Comparison, and Infringement Detection. Dear audience, please do come back for Zeidman-Software Forensic and Safe on IP on HATV. Do not miss the opportunity to sharpen your skills and enhance your proficiency for career competence. Thank you.